glad you're here. My name is Crispina French, and I'm your host of the Rags to Riches podcast. I'm an OG textile alchemist, worked my way through art school making ragamuffins from thrift store sweaters way back in the 1980s. That college side hustle grew into a full-fledged business, and here I am to show you that you can do that too. Together, we'll navigate hurdles, challenges, and accomplishments while crafting your profitable textile upcycling business to serve you and the planet. My guests and I will cover topics including material sourcing, business savvy, product development, sales and marketing, and self-care. Overcoming struggles, celebrating wins, and reaping rewards of running your very own textile upcycling business is what we are all about. Are you ready to be inspired, energized, and supported? This is the Rags to Riches Textile Upcycling Podcast. Are you a textile-centric crafter who loves vintage yardage, unusual fabrics, notions, and sewing tools and tutorials? Maybe you are a sewing teacher in need of cool and inexpensive cloth for students. Whether sewing high-end bespoke couture or experimenting with new textile making processes, swansonsfabrics.com, located in the heart of Turner's Falls, Massachusetts, has just what you need. You can shop online or at the very well-organized and jam-packed store. Swanson's Fabrics is a thrift shop of fabric, notions, and textile tools. It's a community repurposing the leftover collections of home sewers, addressing the reality that we have enough fabric and craft supplies for generations, stored right in our very own attics and closets. Swanson's makes it very easy to pass on an excessive fabric stash and find inspirational treasure for sewing projects. Additionally, Catherine Swanson hosts an online group for entrepreneurs interested in using her business model for fabric thrift stores in their communities. Find Swanson Fabrics at swansonfabrics.com and on TikTok and Instagram. Hi, guys. Today, I'm really excited and looking forward to learning about this really super cool business, you guys. Amelia Trumbull is with me today, and she is from a company called Retold Recycling. Amelia, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So Amelia has this business called Retold Recycling, and I want to learn all about it, but you can send her in her business old textiles that you're no longer using. And it's a model that I'm just really inquisitive about. I think it's such a brilliant idea for people to have this like super accessible way of getting their clothing, their unwanted textiles into a stream that does not involve the landfill. So welcome, Amelia. Talk about how does your business work, and just give us kind of an overview.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, you teed it up perfectly. That's exactly what we do. So Retold Recycling is a mail-based, business that comes straight into your home for ultimate convenience, where you can go on our website, retoldrecycling.com, and order our yellow bags. They are around the size of a pillowcase and they hold around 5 pounds. And so you can order bags from our website. We send them straight to your home, and they all come with a mailing label attached. So the postage is included. So all you need to do is a big declutter in your house, or we have a lot of our customers have an ongoing recycling practice, which is what we really love to endorse. And yeah, you can just throw all of your unwanted textile items in your Retold bag, and then once it's full, seal it up and then just drop it in the post. And it's very convenient if you have a mail pickup at your house, or you could even take it into your work and drop it in the mail room there potentially. Or even if you are going to a USPS, it's great because you don't have to stand in line. It's already got the label attached. And then what happens with the yellow bags is that they come through the post to us. That's something that was very important to us. We didn't really want to be adding extra routes to freight those bags. So they all go through the normal USPS routes, and then they get to our recycling partner where the bags are opened and sorted. And then depending on the quality of the item and the fabrication, they're sorted to go on to their next life. And the majority of the items that come through to us go to thrift stores, to be honest. Obviously, we've all, have an awareness of how much thrifting has expanded over the last couple of years, which is very exciting. So a lot of items go into a thrift store channel, and then the rest of the items are effectively downcycled mostly to rag companies or processors, and then those outputs obviously go on to have another life. So that's the retold process in general for our bag product. And then since we launched in 2020, we also have a whole lot of brands and companies that are coming to us to help them recycle as well, which is super exciting. So that's the B2B side of what we do.
That is so, so cool. Wow. So I'm just kind of wrapping my head around. So you're bringing this stuff in now. Don't be deceived by this girl's beautiful accent. This company is based in LA. Am I right? Is that where things come into? Is that where your recycling partner is located as well?
No, they're actually located in a couple of different hubs across the US. But yeah, everything Retold is based here in the US, serving American customers. It just so happens that my co-founder Alan and I are both Aussie, but we've lived in the US for over 15 years, so we just haven't lost our accents. That's all.
Oh, that's awesome! I love it. I love your accent. So are you? Is that kind of like you're in the United States right now? I can imagine this is going to be global before you're done. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to, Canada is like the first location that we've got our site set on for international expansion, mainly because we have so many Canadian customers finding us generally through Instagram and coming to us and saying like, can we send some stuff in? So that's a no-brainer in terms of expansion. And we'd really love to get on that next year, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's growing. That's so, so cool. So, I always like to kind of dig in a little bit to people's histories.
Yeah.
Like, how did you first get interested in, textiles? Like, okay, there's so many textiles. Like, what do we do? Like, how did that come to you first? Like, what part of your life was that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So so there was three of us who originally started Retold, and we all worked together at MAC Cosmetics. So we all had different parts, our roles were all part of the marketing function there. And as a crew, we'd always talked about potentially spinning off and starting our own company. And one of the things that really underpinned our conversation is that we wanted to leave that kind of corporate life. And it was very important to us that whatever we started, we were going to be doing good for the world. So was it something charitable? Was it for the environment? Was it for other sort of, sectors? And so we had that percolating, I guess, in the back of our minds. And at the same time, when we were having sort of like, some serious, like, let's do something conversations, I was actually renovating my closets in a small Brooklyn apartment. And so I was personally decluttering. And I was taking Ubers because I obviously didn't have a car in Brooklyn. Some people do, but I didn't. Taking Ubers to Goodwill to try and donate things. I was selling things online. I was then schlepping them down to, a UPS store to drop them off if I was selling things. And then, I was like having all of these different practices that frankly were very time consuming and kind of costing me money to, get things out of my home. And then there are all of the items that I'm sort of looking at in my closet, like, underpants or an old bra or a t-shirt that I'd worn to the gym many, many times that I felt like I couldn't donate. And in my consciousness, I was like, well, what do I do with this stuff? And all of it kind of crystallized as an idea, one from a convenience perspective, like how can you get things out of your home in a very easy turnkey way where it's just like way less effort? And then two, how do you, like, what do you do with those things that normally, to be honest, I would have thrown away? And that's where I kind of had that personal aha moment of actually, I'm contributing to landfill here. Like, this is not cool. And, I kind of love shopping. I love clothes. I love fashion. And it's a hobby for me. So I knew I wasn't going to necessarily really significantly cut back. So it was just going to be an ongoing thing that I needed to deal with. And then when I talked through that with my partners, they also came at it from different angles too. Noelle had kids and she was like, oh my God, the amount of things that are stained or they just grow out of so fast and rips and tears, I would love to be able to have a solution for that kind of thing. And Alan had also just moved, and he was like, well, I didn't have to move half of this stuff, but it was actually easier to just throw it in a box and send it cross country than it was to get it out of my home. And so we all kind of had these like things that crystallized for us around the problem. And then we just set about solving it effectively, which is our yellow bags. And as I said before, getting them into your home in a really easy and convenient way. And for us, it was important to have that mailing label attached up front, so you didn't have to go and line up at the post office, etc. So that's how it all kind of came about, like from our business perspective. And then, to be honest, we spent a long time trying to find recycling partners who would handle the back end. So we're obviously all marketing professionals. We know how to acquire customers. We know how to educate. We know how to manage all of those comms, but we knew nothing about recycling. So that's where, it took a year and a half to find the first amazing partner that we still work with today. And that was really what clicked everything into place. So
That's
it was
awesome.
a interesting and roundabout way that we came to it. But I think that speaks to a lot of like entrepreneurial efforts where you work out a need and then you find that solution. So that's basically what we did.
Yeah, it's like I often refer to us entrepreneurs as solutionaries, right? Like there's, some people see problems and they go, oh yeah, well, I can't do that. And we see problems and go like, let's make a business.
Let's fix it. Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, that is so, so cool. So you were talking about how, the convenience factor is so important. And I feel like, actually, I don't know that I've ever really acknowledged how important that is, because everybody has a trash can, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody can just like go throw that old bra or that single sock right in the trash and not have to ever think about it again. And that's like, in their mind, the convenience outweighs anything else because I just got to get rid of it, right?
Yep.
And you've set yourself up with this model so that next to the, in my household, we have the bottles and cans and the paper and the trash. And now the next thing is a yellow bag for the textiles, right? Like that's just really cool. The other thing, I just really, you're marketing professionals and you have this, this experience to develop your customer base, but you're really living the dream. Like you're walking the talk, it's like your bags, like they look like plastic, but yet they are biodegradable, and like finding and that and sourcing that. Like I'm sure there's a lot of thought and effort that went into that. So can you speak to the other, like the kind of back end of how you make your business cohesive and hang together that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bags were fundamental for us. Like it was an absolute non-negotiable that we were never going to have a poly bag that we were shipping around in. And to be honest, for a long time, we looked at more like cloth bags or even like bags made of recycled denim or something like that could go through the post. But it was just hard because the items that are sent in the yellow bags don't come back to us per se. They go to our recycling partner. So then how do we get them back to put them in the post and the carbon footprint of that? So there was a lot of things that we considered. I mean, to be honest, like a lot of, we've only been up and running since 2020. And there are a lot of things that even we would like to innovate on. We would love to become B Corp certified. We would love to really look at getting very granular on, sort of like our carbon footprint around the freight portion of our business. There's a lot more that we would love to do, but at its core, we don't have a headquarters, so we don't sort of use energy. Everyone works from home. Everyone's sort of remote. So we really don't do a lot of that. We might meet up as a team a couple of times a year, but that's it. So we're very sort of, lo-fi on that angle. Our bags, obviously, as I said, they're made from cornstarch, so they're compostable and biodegradable. All of our paper materials are made of recycled materials. It's just that now it's like part of our consciousness. It's so core to our DNA to really have the environment in mind. And so we just are trying to do the best that we can all of the time. Interestingly, a couple of months ago, we haven't talked about it yet, but we had the amazing opportunity of airing on Shark Tank. And we had a little party to celebrate the airing and have a bit of a watch party with our friends. And, we did get a bit carried away and we got some shark-shaped helium balloons. And rightfully for the party, and rightfully, we had someone message us and say, "Hey, that's not really that eco-friendly. Like that's actually kind of not cool. Like you guys should be like walking the talk more." And I was like, you know what? Actually, fair point. But I mean, I think it speaks to the fact that we're all being educated on things, and when we know better, we will do better. And, we're not all perfect. So I think, it really speaks to our brand in that, we're living and breathing it and, working in it too, just as everyone else is. So it's like, how can we just do better than we did yesterday? But the good
Yeah.
news is that those shark balloons, then my daughter literally has been playing with them ever since. They're still like, there's one that's still blown up in her bedroom. So it kind of did get a second life, So
Yeah.
hoping
Yeah.
it's
And
not
just
as bad
awareness,
as just
right?
throwing
Like,
it out.
yeah, to have the awareness of like, oh, wow, you didn't know. And now you know, like I feel like there's a couple points I just want to touch on and, to do your best today, maybe it's better than you were able to do yesterday because now you have a little bit more information. And
Yeah,
tomorrow you'll have a little bit more information. So no judgment, no finger pointing. There's no room or need for
exactly.
blame or whatever. I feel like that is sort of like this underpinning that happens in textile upcycling across the board. Having been in the fashion industry, and I'm sure in your corporate history, there was a sort of like this fickle, sort of competitive, like, don't look
Mhm.
at what I'm doing because you're going to copy it. Don't like
Correct.
steal my ideas. And I feel like in our setting today in textile upcycling, it feels much more collaborative. It feels
Mhm.
more like, oh, you're doing something that's you're doing the best you can. I'm doing the best I can. How can I help you do your best? And how can you help me do my best? Like there's just this desire for
Totally
people
agree.
who, yeah. So my guests here on the podcast, people who present with us at the summit, like there's just this level of like connection because we all share a
Mhm.
passion, right? That's really for the
Mhm.
general good. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Also, to be honest, the landfill is big enough, the problem is big enough that we can all exist to be trying to help the solution. So, I sort of talk about that. People are asking me, like, well, what if there were competitors to Retold that are really emerged in the space? I'm like, there is more than enough waste, unfortunately, to go around. Fast fashion is not going away. So, not that I really like want to welcome cannibalization of our business, but I do definitely feel like we try and approach things in a very collaborative way. We call a lot of other companies that we check in with every now and then our sustainable friends, and we're always up for making more sustainable
yeah,
friends. And I
yeah,
think one thing that you said then that we obviously, like, we came to this business trying to make it a commercial venture. We're marketing professionals, and we were building a recycling business in air quotes. But really what we found is that we're more of an education business, to be honest, because it's a new category that we've effectively built. Like, there are some other bag programs out there, obviously, but they're generally attached to other businesses, and this is our core reason for being. And so we've really had, another aha moment within our business is that to actually convert people to use the service, we actually have to educate them. And then we have to educate them and give them the tools to educate those around them. And that's really where a lot of our growth is coming from, is people referring to their friends, because the amount of people that still just unfortunately don't realize, by throwing your old underpants in the trash, you are adding to landfill. And so the more we can get that word out there, the more we can sort of get to our mission, which is our sort of like sole focus is no landfill. That's what we say. That's our hashtag, our mission, and our reason for being. So yeah, it's really dialing up on that non-judgy, very collaborative educational piece.
yeah, that's so cool. Hey, if you're just tuning in with me, I am so excited to be learning from my friend Amelia Trumbull from Retold Recycling. And we're going to take a quick break and come back and learn more about what happens to the product that she gets returned to her in her yellow bag. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Today's episode of Rags to Riches podcast is brought to you by the Retold Recycling Society, my online membership community for creative textile upcycling, recycling, and reuse entrepreneurs. Inspiration, shared experience, tutorials, business savvy, and connection to a whole posse of people who understand the passion and intricacies of running an environmentally kind, creative textile upcycling biz. Daily posts, weekly stitch hours, book recommendations, group chats, member profiles, and strong connections is what you can expect when you join Stitcherhood. Head on over to stitcherhood.crispina.eco and sign up for a free 7-day trial to see if my Stitcherhood Recycling Society is a good fit for you and your textile upcycling business. Hey, we're back with Amelia Trumbull from Retold Recycling, and retoldrecycling.com is where you can learn all about her business that she has that actually enables people to conveniently recycle any kind of textile waste. I mean, we're talking home, bed sheets, towels, rags, t-shirts, any kind of clothing. I even saw on your website that you take back, everything needs to be clean, of course.
Yes, please wash first.
You don't want anything dirty. Let me just tell you, I know that for a fact. So, cloth diapers were listed. That's awesome. Like, it's really a very accommodating and convenient way to know that your textile waste is not going in the landfill. So I wonder how, as you work with partners that are helping you with the actual recycling part of things, are you able to, I don't know, dictate's not the right word, but are you able to play a role in the end use of that material? Like, I hear all stories about how a lot of our waste winds up in Chile and Ghana, and like, how do you keep that from being part of what happens to the things that you're working with?
Well, thankfully, firstly, when we found our recycling partner, we were very thrilled that the majority of their business is very domestic. So that kind of offshore piece is not really part of our workflow, to be honest. We can't say for sure that there's not some items that might go offshore for on selling, but the majority of it all is domestic and working with domestic partners, which is great. But, really what we see with the majority of the items that get put in the bag is because we take the good stuff and the bad stuff. We literally, just as you said, take all household items. So, we actually get a lot of designer clothing and stuff that can be resold. So a very large portion of it does go to thrift store networks, which is great. And then people can have their own upcycling projects or, use whatever they want from thrift stores. And then the other partners that we deal with, like, generally they have an end use. So from our recycling partner, other companies buy into that bulk. So they will take items that are great for rags, for rag companies that are used a lot in hospitality and medical fields and hospitals, etc. And then a lot of it actually then ends up being downcycled with other partners, generally into a pulp. One of my favorite end uses for the pulp of things that are recycled is that they go inside like boxing bags, like punching bags. So I love that. I love the idea that it can be part of the squishy floor at a kid's playground. It can be the inside of a car seat. So more and more, that kind of bulk, or like industry term for it is shoddy. There's more and more uses for that end use. But to be honest, like, that whole cyclical nature of being able to track the items that come in our yellow bags and then potentially make fashion out of that fabric with a new end use is very exciting to us. So we're in touch with a few different we call them next generation fabric houses, because once there's enough volume and we can control that workflow ourselves enough to get them what they need, we would love to start exploring that. Like, we would love that you could put your items in one of our yellow bags, and then we're selling a yellow t-shirt that's made from the contents. Like, that would be our holy grail. So more to come on that, more to come.
That's so exciting. So yeah, I'd love to know, as you're thinking about that, like the future of your business, and how, if you could fast forward kind of like, maybe a year or two or maybe 3 years out, like, what would be just like the perfect unfolding in your opinion? Like, how do you see
Yeah.
yourself in your business kind of walking into that future?
Well, to be honest, like we've got pretty lofty goals. We at Retold want to become synonymous with textile recycling. So it just basically becomes like second nature in your home. So it's just like, oh, I'm going to Amazon that, into my house. I'm going to retold that out of my house. So yeah, we want everyone really across America, and then as we expand internationally, to have one of our yellow bags next to their laundry, or in their closet for decluttering any of those items, and for it to really become second nature. And I think the key thing for us is like how we can encourage the population to have that awakening and understand their footprint when it does come to, contributing to textile based landfills. So we really would love that education piece, so more people are aware, and then more people to have, an ongoing recycling practice, and always just choose Retold for that service. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
so
our
cool.
goal.
I love lofty goals. My goal, and I sometimes I like wonder, like, my goal when I started my business was I'm going to change the way that people consume textiles. I was 19, taken. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
I could do it by myself with my business. I was going to take over the world. And about, I guess it was really like, for me, it was like a few, like maybe 5 or 6 years in, I was like, there is no way, no matter how big my business grows, there is no way I can conquer this. So going back to speaking to that thing where, people asking you, like, aren't there other businesses that are your competitors? Well, people used to ask me, like, if I was ever going to run out of material. And I'm like, absolutely, horrifyingly, no, there's no way in heck,
No.
ever in a million years that I could ever possibly run out of material. And I feel like the same is true for your business model, is like, even if everybody in the United States had a yellow bag next to their trash can and recycle bins in their pantry, there would still be enough room for another company to have a piece of that as well. I feel like there's just people, I think a lot of people who are not so inside of the industry have a very small understanding of the enormity of textile
Mm-hmm.
waste, right?
Yeah,
So, um,
absolutely.
yeah, so I think that it's fine to have lofty goals. And I feel like, it's been 35 years, I think, for me. I lose track. I can't do math in my head quickly when I'm talking on a podcast, but people have
I never
actually, I
can.
mean, I can't tell you that it's been me single-handedly telling people, like, hey, don't forget to upcycle your clothing. But I do think that there's been, there's an influence, and it happens. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just lovely to kind of like be here now and look back at, we were talking and kind of joking a little bit before we hit the record button about how, when I started my business, people were kind of horrified. People were
Yeah.
oftentimes like, sort of like, really not sure if I was, stable, because like I was making baby blankets and toys out of what they thought was garbage. And
Yeah,
there's not that much of that now. People are more aware of there's this
absolutely.
opportunity, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that is amazing. And I feel like if you have lofty goals, you achieve lofty things.
Things.
And you
Yeah,
do.
why play
Yeah,
small, right? Yeah.
right,
I
exactly.
also think, when you started your business, I don't, there probably was, some glass recycling or maybe paper, but it's really, I think, more and more becoming a general practice of the population to recycle something in their home. And thankfully, more and more councils around the US are like bringing out programs, etc. So, I think as people sort of like start having that behavior in other areas, they can then add that on. But you were just an amazing early adopter. So
Yeah, little
you
did
sort
I
of
know,
started that
like,
education
yeah.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, I look back and I'm like, I can't believe like that this idea, like, kind of sort of was the same way, like an idea just kind of came to me, like,
Yeah.
oh, I could do this job while I'm working my way through college. It turned into like my life's passion. It wasn't something I was like, I'm going to write a
Mhm.
business plan. Like, I think the first time I ever thought about a business plan was like 15 years in, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
what's a
exactly.
business plan? Like,
But how good does it feel though? I mean, I have to say I'm very lucky. I have had all of those big corporate jobs, and I still consult actually on the side to a lot of other corporates as well. Um, but when you're working day in, day out in a mission driven business, the feel good factor is so good. Like, I look at other companies and they're like, oh, we put on a volunteer day once a month, for our staff to feel good about working here. And it's like, well, our staff lives and breathes this every day. Like the celebratory nature when, we tick over to another, like right now we've already diverted 65 tons of textiles away from landfill. Well, the celebratory nature when we hit one of those big milestones is like epic within our business. Like we're all chatting and, Slack's going crazy. So, it's just like, it just, really speaks to your heart because, you're having an impact, you're doing the right thing. So yeah, it feels really good. Highly motivating.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I have the same kind. And I think anybody who's upcycling in any way, I mean, upcycling, recycling, even downcycling, like if you're taking something that someone thought was trash, and even if you're only assigning that thing a small value, it was a liability and suddenly it became the opposite, right? Like suddenly it had like this, oh, that doesn't have to cost me money to go, to make go away. I can actually turn it into something of value. I mean, it's a pretty magical thing. So talk a little bit. So people go to your website, they buy a bag, right?
Yep. Jump on retoldrecycling.com. We have all different bag packs and subscriptions. Yep.
Cool. So you can sign up for like an individual bag, like to try it out and see if it works for you, right? And then you can also, if it's something that, wow, that was super cool and easy, you can actually subscribe so that you get a certain bag every so often. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have the annual subscription where you pay upfront for the whole year, or quarterly subscription where you pay by the quarter. And for each of them, though, you get 3 bags up front when you sign up, and then we send you another bag each subsequent quarter for the rest of the year. So 6 bags across a year to sort of keep everything out of your home. And then we also have our solo bag, our threesome, which is obviously a 3-pack, and then our closet clean out 10-pack. So even if you are subscribing, you might find like maybe you're going to move house. You might order a 10-pack, as a one-off just to really do a really big declutter. And more we're also seeing sales of our gift cards do really well because people like giving that as a gift. Like it's a great idea, like when you have a baby, to like give a Retold gift card. So, the new mum and dad can, buy bags, and then for all of those baby things that, like you can't get those stains out, or, like wear and tear, or maybe you've received some great hand-me-downs, but then they're not fit to pass on again, that Retold bag is super handy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then I was wondering, so just so you guys know, there's at the show notes page, Amelia has been really generous and she's sharing a discount code. So if you want, I would just recommend, just try it out. Like it's something that, for me, I actually don't generate a whole lot of textile waste in my household because I recycle it for a job. But for most people who I know who ask me, I get so many people asking me, like, what do I do with this stuff? Like, what do I do? Like, once the bed sheets have turned into rags and now I got rags that I got too many, what do I do? This is what you do, guys. You get on retoldrecycling.com and you get yourself a yellow bag and see if it works for you. Because if it's something that is easy, you're going to be much more prone to doing it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So go to the show notes page, get the discount code there. And then also think about how this is going to impact like, your friends and family. I mean, the thing that I think happens for a lot of people who, there's the I sort of categorize people into 2 pools, the people who understand how to upcycle and where do those clothes go? Like, maybe I have a lot of people who give me clothes, like they know that I like cashmere sweaters and wool sweaters. I don't care if they have holes. I don't care if they have stains. I can use those, so people will send me that stuff. But there are those people who are aware that there's a place you can send stuff, right? And then there's this other much larger group of people who just really wish they knew. They just feel they have like this sort of, environmental anxiety, which is actually a real thing, right? And they just need to know that they can do something that's not going to cost them a ton of money. It's not going to spend the day. It's not going to be something that they have to like schedule on their calendar. It's just part of what happens. So spread the word. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, that's why we tried to make it as easy as possible as well. Like one solo bag is only $14.50. So, we don't think that's terribly prohibitive
And that
to give it
includes
a
the
go.
shipping. Like,
And that
oh my
includes
gosh,
one
that's,
and done.
yeah.
And obviously we'll have a promo code, as you said, check the show notes. So you can try it out on your first order. But the thing is, like, for us, we're often asked, like, how do people start a recycling practice? And I'm like, literally, you must be a unicorn if you don't lose at least like one sock every couple of months in your washing process. Like, we all have the solo sock problem. So just start there. Like, even if it's just like odd sock, you can't find its friend, drop it in the retail bag. Pair of undies, that's not looking so great anymore. Like, the lace is coming off, whatever it is, in the retail bag. And just starting small, and then like you will find the convenience of that. You just keep going. Then something's going to happen where you're going to get to a Saturday and you're going to be like, right, it's declutter day. Let's, bring it on. And then you can kind of step up from there. But as you find the convenience and that practice is actually pretty seamlessly like woven into your life, that's when for sure you can, you start spreading the word. And, we're all about like telling our friends like, oh, I've got a great hack or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's very commonplace now. So yeah, we have a lot of our customers that are spreading the word because Retold's a great hack for them, getting things out of their home.
Yeah.
And, like you said, we pretty much take everything. We just say, please wash. It's only things that are very, hardware heavy that's quite challenging to recycle. But to be honest, a lot of that stuff goes into thrift stores anyway. Like a leather jacket or whatever has a very high thrift store resale value. And, it's really just things that with a lot of like oil or paint on them that's challenging, but we don't get a lot of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can take the foam out of your dog bed. We'll take that casing, like a whole lot of, like you said, scraps, rags, things that you might have reused and, downcycled kind of in your home or given another purpose. Then once that's done, then we can take it as well. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can sort of start that behavior. But yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible.
It's such a service, Amelia. It's such a service. And, when we're talking about like spreading the word, I think that, one of the things that is so lovely about textile upcycling is that speaking personally, I feel like I'm part of the solution. I feel like I have the ability to address our environmental crisis with joy and creativity, and it's fun for me, right? And there's hundreds of people who don't have that. That's not part of what they do every day, and they have now this opportunity to actually build that into their lives that are not focused on textile upcycling. And I feel like when someone has like a hack or a contact with a company that is working really nicely for them, it feels really good to share that too. So again, just a really beautiful way to grow a business, support small businesses, address our global textile excessive consumption crisis, and keep it in domestic, right? Like that's another really big piece of the Retold Recycling story that we didn't touch upon a lot, but just to know that the stuff that you're discarding is not winding up in some southern hemisphere country where people don't have the ability to just stop the tide of our excess, right? Our waste. So
I will
you.
say the other, our pleasure. Thank you. One other thing on that note that we're very encouraged about is that amount of companies and brands finding us and saying, help us create a recycling program, whether it's offering a bag program to their customers to encourage that behavior, but also all of their back of house processing. So what can we do about their samples? What can we do about their returns? Excess production that they didn't account for, whatever. Like, how do we partner together and deal with that in a sustainable way? And that's one area in which we're so thankful for our time on Shark Tank, because that has really given us a platform of exposure to a lot of companies and brands. We've even had companies that make, trailer homes, and they're outfitting like the couch or whatever in a trailer with, obviously their fabric. And then they have offcuts. Okay, what can we do with that? So it's really not even like pigeonholed into the fashion space. Like there's so many companies that we can work with. We're talking to amazing hotel chains who want to, offer bags to people who stay in their hotel so they're not throwing things in the trash in the room. We're talking to companies that, rent out short-term apartments and old towels that they have. They want to send them to us for recycling. So, really anything that touches textiles is up for grabs, I think. And the amazing thing is that I really do feel like there's this groundswell of consciousness within the corporate space, trying to work out, okay, how can we do the right thing with this stuff? And thankfully, a lot of them are finding Retold, so we're working on it together. So
it's really awesome. It's really, really awesome. I'm just so thankful for your ability to offer this service to people. And, I'm just excited to watch, how it unfolds and how it grows and how, people, I can imagine down the line having your collection be accessible to people who are using materials from the thrift stream to make new things, right? Maybe you can become a supplier for people who have businesses that are looking for a particular type of fabric or clothing that could be sourced through your business. So I'm really good at planning everybody else's life. So I'm already doing that.
Feel free to send any ideas our way. More than happy to be collaborating.
Well, it's really, really lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I look forward to staying in touch. And if you're listening, just be sure that you hop over to that show notes page. Go to retoldrecycling.com. They're also on Instagram at Retold Recycling. So that's really cool. Accessible, really fun information, a lot of educational tools on your website. That's, go check it out, guys. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for talking about Retold. Love it. Thank you
welcome.
So much.
Thank you. Hey, so I'm over here and I'm serving you a giant air hug because you just finished another episode of the Rags to Riches Textile Upcycling Podcast. Thank you for being with me. Our music is provided by The Lucky Five. Learn more about them at thelucky5.com. Our show is produced and edited by Van Dalhyason. If you want to dive in deep, head over to ragstoriches.eco.